Welcome everybody to the February 22nd Ortelius board meeting. Do we have anything from last week in the minutes we need to deal with? Or are we good on that front? I don't have them in front of me.
I believe we are good. There was no follow-up, and I guess we should get in a habit of asking people to approve the minutes from the month before.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there was,
Do you have a link for that, anybody?
yeah, put that
Is there a
in the chat.
2024 doc, or are we still in the old one?
There's a
There is a
2024 version.
2024. There it is. I just put it in and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can see it.
Thank you.
So we voted last, just to cover the big thing that we did is we voted last month to pursue moving Ortelius out of the CDF and into the open SSF. To that end, we had a meeting with the Technology Oversight Committee. They all had a big thumbs up for it as well, even though many of them, like us, were sad to see that we'd have to leave the CD Foundation. I have reached out to Utkarsh. I'm sorry, not Utkarsh. I've reached out to Omkar, and I have reached out to Christopher Robinson, who usually goes as Krob, and they have given us a thumbs up as well. The challenge right now is the best place for us to be. Let me see if I can.
Well, but while you find that, so the structure of the OpenSSF is projects report to a working group, and then a working group takes the metrics and data and stuff like that and pushes that up to the TOC, and then, or the TAC, and then the TAC reports up to the governing board on that level. So Krob suggested us look at the metrics and metadata working group, and so we've been targeting that group. They've had a half of a meeting, and the reason why I say half of a meeting because their scheduling got messed up and only half of the people showed up.
Actually, we showed up, Steve, and two people from the Linux Foundation.
Yeah.
Nobody else did.
Well, Jay White finally
and then
showed
Jay
up
White,
later.
yeah, the very late, and said, "Hey, I didn't know this was happening." They had some scheduling issues. So what has occurred with this group? This group used to be primarily Alpha Omega. So if we look at what their projects have been in the past, they really don't have a good.
They have the active projects there.
It just says security insights and security. But I thought Alpha Omega used to be in this project, in this list. That's why I'm so a little confused. But anyway, so Alpha Omega is where this is being. Alpha Omega is managed by this group. The OpenSSF recently changed the way they're going to manage open source projects. So a year ago, they didn't have any projects. And now each working group can have projects. So the working group is at a higher order than the projects underneath it. This group is fairly new. In terms of how they have formatted themselves, they've just changed the name, and they're trying to figure out their meeting cadence. So that's where they're at. I would encourage all of you to join the mailing list. And I sent out an email that shows what you have to go through to go through the process of joining the mailing list. As you see right now, I don't know that group. They have a 404 off of their main page to get to their mailing list. But if you go through your Linux Foundation account and you find it, you will get there. Or you can join them on Slack, and they've been trying to keep everybody updated with what's going on Slack. Somebody's asking right now, do we have a meeting in a half hour? According to my calendar, not today, next week. So the next meeting will be next Thursday, and it's at
next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday? Okay, at what time?
I'd have to look. I think it's the 2 p.m. Mountain Time, so 2 Eastern Time.
Okay.
2 Eastern Time, noon Mountain Time.
I'm wanting everybody to join that as a way to get us involved. And can you hear me at my?
Yes.
Okay.
If you move your microphone that's laying on the floor,
Well, I can't hear anything because my phone has taken over my earbuds. Okay. Hang up. Okay. Sorry about that, folks. So anyway, the goal right now is to get as many of our contributors to get them involved in the metrics and metadata group so that we can pursue a relationship with them. And in the meantime, there's some other work that we need to do to make sure we are aligned with what they are doing. And most of the work we are actually doing is aligned. Our messaging is not. So we're having to do some work around that. Okay, let me capture these notes. Steve, are you taking notes or somebody is? Great. And is there any questions or concerns about the moving over? Anybody change their mind or have a obvious concern that we've overlooked?
I haven't changed my mind, but it seems to me that this would merit a note of, here are the steps you need to do on the Ortelius side, you personally, like me, Tony, to make sure you're getting into the right emails and right Slack channels and so on. Because you just went through
Yes.
a bunch of stuff, and I think it started with an assumption that everybody has a Linux Foundation account.
Well, I went through and I did set up I sent an Ortelius email, and I can send it again. Let me make sure it was thorough enough.
It
Here
may
is
be in, but roughly when would you have sent it?
I sent it on February the 15th, and I'm going to put it in the notes here.
and that went out to everybody that is in the Google Groups emailing list for Ortelius.
Okay, here we go. Its subject was joining the OpenSSF metrics and metadata working group.
Correct.
Okay, so do steps 1, 2, and 3 there, it appears.
Yeah. And then the
Okay.
Slack channel's at the bottom there.
Got it. All right, well, you have done that already then.
Yeah.
So I just
The
need to
Slack,
actually
Tracy, the Slack
in.
doesn't work. When I'm actually logging to Slack, it gives me an error that I don't have an account associated with Slack with the OpenSSF.
I think what you have to do first is join the Linux Foundation and join the working group, and then you can join the Slack channel.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, Siddharth. How are you? It's good to see you.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
what you have to do is if you're having problems on the Slack side, make sure that before you try to get into the specific channel, that you get yourself associated with the open source security foundation workspace in Slack. And I'll put that in the chat, also in the notes. And then once you have that, then you can navigate to the working group.
The most important is actually getting in on the mailing list, because if you're on the mailing list, you'll be notified of when they have their meetings and any other activity that they're involved in. So getting on the mailing list, and I think once you're in the Linux Foundation OpenSSF group, then you'll be able to get access to the mailing list and the Slack channel. Okay, so the next thing we need to talk about is the Ortelius SaaS site. So we have not had a SaaS environment for some time. Most of that was taken down when the CDF started to run out of money. So Deploy Hub wants to backfill that space. So what we're thinking about doing is going ahead and putting up an Ortelius site out on our environment, and we will just put the Ortelius. It'll be all branded Ortelius, but it'll have a note that it is sponsored by Deploy Hub, so everybody knows that they're not on a Linux Foundation site, that they are on a Deploy Hub site. I think we'll have to maintain that until we have a new location, and if we become part of the OpenSSF, which may take us some time. This could be a 6-month effort. I believe we can get funding then to move the site over to the Linux Foundation. So I think we should have a discussion about it if there's any concerns about us doing that, or if there's another way we should go about it.
So Tracy, will there be any major changes going forward?
No, what we'll do is we will add the so when you go to the website, it'll show all the Ortelius logos. All that will be catered around Ortelius. So we have a place for folks to start working with the tool without having to do any install. And then we'll do the same thing for the new version. So the new version, when we get it far enough along with the UI updates, that will have a way to get to that as well.
As a test environment, and then we'll roll that over to what would be production.
Yeah, once we're happy with the new version, then we'll do the flip down the road.
And in that process, so in the past, we've had a free version that that people have played on that takes you to a sample application called the Hipster Store. We're going to get rid of all of that, and the sample application will be Ortelius itself. So all of the Ortelius data will be exposed, but it will not be editable. It'll only be, anybody who signs up will only be able to see the Ortelius data in just in view mode, but they'll be able to create their own domains and their own account, their own company domain. Is that right, how you're changing it, Steve?
Yeah, let me share my screen real quick and I can.
Okay.
So let me just log out real quick. So one of the things that we've done to give people data to work with is we've set up an open source domain, and then this is my test domain for my own company, my Fink company.
And that will come from a sign up off of the Ortelius website.
Yeah. So when I log into the open source one, we can see that we have the versions being created from our GitHub Actions and stuff. And you can see here the domain, we've added open source as a high level domain that we log into. Then we have the Linux Foundation, then OpenSSF, and then Ortelius. Another example would be open source and then like Apache, and then whatever project is under Apache sub project, let's say Tomcat, for example. And then that would be one of the subdomains at that level. So this allows us to start exposing the open source packages that are being consumed. So if we actually go into, let me find a later one. We'll get this one here. So if we look at the SBOM that's coming across, we have a bunch of packages out here like JWT, Fast API, all these different packages that Ortelius is consuming, that we can then go out and add those as components as well into Ortelius and grab their SBOM if they exist and stuff like that. So what the plan would be is to build up a nice database of all of your dependencies, the SBOMs, and all that metadata that we gather at that point.
So the goal would be here is we need to make sure that we have a site for you, the open source contributors, can see what changes are being made and expose how we're managing the security around Ortelius to start with. We
Yeah,
don't
and
have that now, so the goal would be to take Deploy Hub would come off, the Ortelius logo would go back on with a sponsored by Deploy Hub underneath it. And the documentation would go to the Ortelius doc. So it's really an Ortelius site that has a sponsored by. And certainly, if we had other companies who wanted to sponsor it, we would go ahead and fund it that way. You know, I think everybody in the Linux world, in the Linux Foundation world, may be a little gun shy now, watching what has happened to some of the projects at the CDF. So I feel like in the future, we should have a way to fund our project and not necessarily rely on the Linux Foundation to do so.
And it was interesting because I've been moving things around on in our GitHub Actions, and basically one of the things when I first started a couple days ago was we created this front end. This is the new UI that's in Svelte, and I was getting CVE showing up, and I couldn't figure out why, and I eventually tracked it down. And we can see that when we just bumped our versions, that we all of a sudden we were getting rid of those CVEs. So you can see at the bottom here that we brought in a whole new version of Swagger, and then we were able to get rid of these old Go dependencies just by bumping versions in our code base. So because we have all the history, it's going to be very nice to be able to tie all this stuff together for folks to navigate through. So in other words, we're going to have data out there for people to play with right out of the box.
And also, if Steve, go to the Deploy Hub site. The Ortelius site needs a place where you can log into Ortelius. So if we look at how we're handling it, there's on the right-hand side, there's a SaaS login, and that takes you over to the SaaS version so you can log into it. No, all the way up to the top, Steve, you had it. So it's just right there. So that takes you over to our Deploy Hub site. Ortelius needs a similar thing. So we need to add Ortelius. We need a login. Is that not working?
No, just open another tab.
Oh, okay. So the Ortelius needs the same thing. So if you're looking at our product, you should be able to go to Ortelius.io, and there should be a form to sign up for seeing it. There should be a place where you can log into it, and there should be data, and that's what we're trying to build. That's what we lost when the CD Foundation dropped everything. And that was costing around $300 or $400 a month.
Well, yeah, on running a separate Azure cluster.
Yeah.
Over on Google, it's about $200 a month.
So any discussion on that? And do you, Siddharth, do you think we should hold a vote on that to clarify what we're doing?
The clarity is there. I think very important is, if not this, what is the next best option? So, before voting, we should be clear, do we have any other option? If it is not, then probably voting may not work.
The other option is to keep going down the path that Sasha put together with running Ortelius locally in like a client cluster or Rancher, and setting things up that way. One of the things that happens with that is you start with basically a blank database, and that's one of the tricky parts when people want to kick the tires scenario.
It makes for a lot more work to kick the tires than just to sign in and start seeing how Ortelius is being managed, and that's ultimately what we want to do. Because right now,
Yeah, I agree.
the team doesn't have even an opportunity themselves to look at where Ortelius is. There's no place to log in to do that because it was taken out. That you could go to Deploy Hub and see it.
We had the dev environment, right? We had that dev environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we used to have.
So is it just basically deciding is everyone just okay with running it at Deploy Hub? Is that what you mean? Like
Right.
running it in your
Yes.
infrastructure?
Yeah,
I think that's a great idea.
And then, but then again, listing us as a sponsor and maybe have a sponsor page out there for anybody else who may want to sponsor it. If we find somebody else who says, yeah, I'll give you $300 or $400 a year to help sponsor it, we would probably take it to pay for it.
For me, it's like a brainer because I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Deploy Hub. So go for it.
Yeah, we'll have the South African Surf Club sponsoring it as well.
Oh yeah, geez, that's true. That would be great. Exactly. Yeah.
So
it makes sense, right? Centralizing it.
Yeah, it's just giving the easy on-ramping for folks to look at it is what we're trying to achieve.
Right, and anybody who's with the OpenSSF, if they want to see what we're doing and clarify what if we fit into their model, they're going to want to have something to play on. And Steve is about 50-60% done with building in the scorecard, and that will also be important for us being accepted into the OpenSSF. And those compliance reports will be available as well for Ortelius, so they can see how we're doing it.
Nice.
Yeah, so there's a couple things that, and the scorecard is an OpenSSF scorecard. Other things I've seen that kind of floating around is if there is a governing board behind a project, and if they have, contributor docs, those type of things, that data needs to be captured as well from the projects. But
sounds good.
Incremental changes.
Steve, is there still a need to have like like the Terraform thing we're using for the old Ortelius? Would that still be a requirement if people want to run it locally?
Exactly. That's not going away.
Okay.
And my guess that would be for people who want to move forward with it. So if they want to move forward with it, but they don't want to use the SaaS version, then they can do that.
Yeah, makes sense.
So does that answer your question, Siddharth?
Yes, I think in that case, probably we don't need a voting, but we can ask people if they want voting for.
So if we update the motion to say brand the website SaaS as Ortelius, sponsored by Deploy Hub or any other future sponsor.
That works for me.
Works for me.
Yeah, works for me.
The cool thing is that Ortelius is, if it wasn't for Deploy Hub, we wouldn't have Ortelius. And then now we have Ortelius, now we have a group of people who are all actively improving it, right? Which is awesome, right? So we want to keep our Ortelius going, and make it the best we can.
Yeah, and I think, it would be, there's a part of me that wants to expose this amazing team that we have, and from the Ortelius product, the SaaS, to make sure that there's a link back to who the contributors are, who the governing board is, and who the TAC is, or the TOC is. So it would be nice to better expose the community around the SaaS product, which we haven't pursued, but I think this should motivate us to do that.
And I wonder if we need to do one of those pages that link back to the contributors, like a written by or
exactly
created by page, and we can get people's information out there.
Or even if it just goes to the GitHub site and pulls all of our contributor names and displays them, so it's dynamic.
Exactly. That's what I mean.
Yeah. So I would ask then that the board go ahead and do a proper vote on this. So if we are taking money from other sponsors, it's clear why and that it's being done in a transparent way.
Okay, I'll make the motion. So I wrote it down. So to host the Ortelius SaaS version on Deploy Hub infrastructure, brand the website and SaaS as Ortelius, sponsored by Deploy Hub or any other future sponsor.
I'll second that.
Me
All in
too,
favor?
seconding it. In favor. Me.
Me.
1, 2.
Africa says go for it.
Siddharth,
Anybody,
yes.
is any objections?
No objection.
I'm good.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, the next thing, that was the biggest thing on our list. The rest is pretty much just some informational stuff to cover. The Visionary Summit is being rebranded. Syme Safter has taken kind of control of that. The outreach, we had 11 people show up for our first planning committee meeting for the new, for naming it. Some of the names have been pretty fun, actually. Let's see if I can quickly give you guys an idea of what kind of names that the group came up with. There was some of the plus ones was Secure Chain, which I thought was really good, Securing Supply Chain Microservices Conference, DevSecOps Connect, Pipeline Security Summit, DevSecOps Innovation Summit, DevSecOps Strategy Summit, which I thought was a really good one. And the team talked about, three things. Basically, primarily, what do we want to deliver and who do we want to deliver it to? Through some of my encouragement, I know because I've been looking at what audience we really are catering to. It's DevOps engineers and security engineers are two primary personas that we're pursuing. The other thing that I have learned through attending many of these meetings is the biggest question people have is, great, there's all these security tools. How do we automate them? How do we implement them? So I encourage the team to think about us as not as security experts, but implementation, DevSecOps implementation experts. So that is how they're starting to rethink about what that summit looks like. They want to get a sessionized CFP on the books by March 1st. So they basically have next Monday to get this stuff figured out. So we do have a shared doc that we're working on, and I believe that we'll get something pretty close. It can never be perfect, and open source, I've learned, especially the outreach stuff, can be, it's not going to be as professional as a KubeCon, but I'm excited that there are people on the team who want to get themselves involved. And we had people show up like Roy Nilsson and Neetu Jain that we haven't spoken to in quite some time who are interested in helping out with this. So more to come on that business. And then that's it. So we covered the updates on the Ortelius, a new home for Ortelius, the SaaS site, and the Visionary Summit. Those are the three things that I felt that you all should be updated on. I don't think that there's any other critical items that we need to solve at this point. The SaaS has been my biggest concern, only because we're losing visibility by not having a place for people to see it.
I think that was everything I could think of as well.
I was wondering, whatever happened, like what was the end result of the XRPL funding?
That's still out there, and we're actually still going through it. We have about $60,000 in that bucket. There are probably 50 issues out there that people can work on. So Arvin's picked up a few, I picked up a few. So I think now that we've gotten through a lot of the design pieces, that will start spending down that bucket pretty quick.
Okay. And is the method of payment that y'all set up, is that working? Is it?
Yeah,
It is. I just got paid for my work that I did back in October. So yes, it does. You got to prime the pump, but once it's primed, it works fine.
yeah. So they put it, because it goes through Stripe, the payments with GitHub. It takes like I think they said 2 months for them to go ahead and process it. I think they're doing some due diligence on the back end for the initial payment. But once the initial payment's done, then it gets paid out. Let's say I approve somebody to get paid on the 15th. They'll get paid at the end of the month. So if I submit something on the 30th, they'll get paid the next day, basically. So it ends up being a monthly payout period, but you have that initial lag that you just gotta sit around and wait.
Cool. And we don't have to change any of that when we're moving to a different
No.
open source project. That can all stay. Okay.
No, so to clarify that, none of our GitHub repos or anything like that have to move. None of our copyrights or licensing has to change going from the CDF to the OpenSSF. All that is in place. All the proper, lack of a better word, attributions up to the Linux Foundation are already done. Our copyright and our trademarks around the name and logos and stuff like that are already been vetted by the Linux Foundation legal. So we're all good on that front. Oh, and to speak of that, the legal side, I have been getting some emails from the Linux Foundation that they have a team of lawyers if we need them to help with us, help us with anything. Right now, I don't foresee any legal advice that we need, but that is a possibility that they're out there if we need them.
That was a great question, Anne Marie. Thank you for asking that. We haven't updated. And Alex Flum is no longer at Red Hat. He has moved on and he's doing some startup work. And he may take some, because he's done quite a bit of ledger work. So he may take up some of those extra bounties that we've been waiting to get completed. I would like to get that XRP funding spent. I hate to see that money sitting in the GitHub account someplace. I know that there have been contributors who have taken advantage of it, but I feel like we could just get it off the list and get everybody paid out for the work that needs to be done. So Alex may take some of that up. And Utkarsh, I know you're busy working and going to school in Oxford and probably really hard classes, but don't forget that's out there. We'd love to get it finished.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know if everybody knew that Utkarsh is going to Oxford right now. He's been in London. Sasha might be there. Might end up having a contingent in London.
I might be haunting you, Utkarsh.
Be awesome. It'd be really fun.
Yeah, it'll be cool. Yeah, it'll be super cool.
Oh, and one last thing before we go, of course, we're still looking for blogs. Tony has a team working on a non-functional requirements blog. So if anybody's inspired to write a blog, please do. The awards are out. The CDF, hey, Brian, the CDF awards are live. The Ortelius Top Contributor Award includes Utkarsh, Tony, and Arvin. Those were the three nominations. And that voting is done. I set that up and sent it out yesterday, so you should see that. So please vote for your favorite contributor. And look for the CDF awards as well. So I don't think that we had any Ortelius nominees for any of the other awards. We did kind of consume them all last time between Simon and Steve. But do look for them because you will get a vote. It'll be in a separate OPA vote though. And Brian, good to see you. Sorry, we're about to jump. I can fill you in on what we have decided. There was only one vote.
Okay, thanks. No worry. I'll catch up with you on it later today and look at the minutes.
Okay.
Anything else from anybody?
Okay, and we've got our architecture meeting at the bottom of the hour.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Sorry for the late
Bye.
going.